Welcome to another episode of Grief Talk. Everything you want to know about grief and more. I'm your host, Fawn Solis. As an author, mentor, and bereaved mom since 2005, through guest interviews and coaching, here's where you'll always get great content that is inspiring and practical to help you heal after loss. Today's guest is Ashmeeta Madhav, a resilience and grief support advocate, educator, entrepreneur, and author, marked by loss experiences including miscarriage, rejection, her parents, and husband. These challenges immersed her in the depths of intense grief, leaving her feeling stuck and adrift. Ashmeeta embraced the path of self-discovery, recognizing the vital role of personal growth and the profound impact that our thoughts have on shaping our reality. Her book, What's Your Story, is designed to bring comfort, inspiration, and guidance to empower people navigating difficult times discover the strength within themselves to foster resilience and create a meaningful life. So welcome to the show, Ashmeeta. It is so wonderful to finally meet you after connecting a little bit ago. So welcome to the show. It's going to be a good episode.
Thank you for having me, Vaughn.
You're very welcome. So as I said in the introduction, audience, Ashmeeta does have experience with different types of loss. Ashmeeta, I'm just going to briefly recap here. So definitely a miscarriage, which is not something I really deal with on the podcast, but it is worthy to note because it forms part of your trauma and background story of loss. You have had rejection. And boy, well, again, that's an episode all on its own. I want to acknowledge that because it's very important how we go through grief, what we think of ourselves. And we may actually have an opportunity to talk a little bit about that in this episode. You lost both your parents and your husband, so you were widowed early in life. And well, I have done a couple of other episodes on spousal loss. Losing a spouse early is it's its own category. And I'm not saying it's more difficult for the person who's been married for decades and then the spouse has passed, but when you don't expect it, and I believe that your husband did die from cancer, so you were also caregiving. And so there's a whole grief around that, right? Because he was terminal cancer, right?
Yes, pancreatic.
Yeah. So I'd like to just invite you to start. We are going to be talking, audience, about those losses for Ashmeeta. We're going to be talking about how thoughts shape our reality. And through this episode, we're going to build to the whole idea that no matter what we've come from, our thoughts are incredibly important. And Ashmeeta does do work in this area. And we're going to talk about, from her perspective and her experience and her teaching, how thoughts really do shape our reality. And we're going to be talking about your book, Ashmeeta, What's Your Story, and how that is inspiring for others and what they can take from Ashmeeta's book and also the community that you serve. And hopefully a little bit of caregiving and not to lose yourself if you are in that role of caregiving as Ashmeeta was, and probably millions of others caring for a sick, terminal loved one. And it's just so easy to lose yourself. So let's get started, Ashmeeta. And I would just like to invite you to go back wherever you want to start, where you recognize grief in your life. And even if it was later, looking back and going, that experience impacted me, traumatized me even maybe, but really basically shaped you to what would be, I'd say, your lowest point, or at least to the point where you recognized you needed to change and transform.
Sure. So I would say in my case, with the various different experiences that I've had with loss, the one that stands out, the one that kind of really played a number on me, they all played a number on me, but the one that really pushed me out of my comfort zone and pushed me out of, was the loss of my husband. I mean, I felt really, really lost when my mom passed away. I was still a young mom. Two boys, just started elementary school, moved to a new country. all of that kind of stuff. So it was a whole new experience for us as a family in a new country. And
Yes.
in like a year later, I found out that my mom passed away,
Yeah.
you know, just suddenly passed away. So I had to go back to South Africa, which is where I'm originally from.
Yeah.
And it all happened in like a week. And my mom, just a little bit of history there, my mom was actually my best friend. I had
Yeah.
felt that connection with her. The connection with her became really strong, especially during the times when I was going through rejection, when I had my first miscarriage. She was the one person who unconditionally was there for me and didn't try to fix me.
Yes.
It just naturally, a mother. I don't wanna go into all that.
Yeah. I just want to actually pause for a quick sec on that one because when did your mom die? What year?
2008.
And no doubt that still impacts you. I mean, the loss of her, you've lost your best friend. And so I just want to acknowledge here for people that I think we're culturally, certainly in North America, kind of expected to sort of get over it quickly because they were expected, especially if it came from older age and natural causes. Well, they lived a good life. How often do we hear that? But
All the time.
I know, but our moms really, they are our pillars all through our life. And it is most unfortunate for those of us who do lose our moms after an already traumatic death, such as I did. My mom died 5 years after my daughter's suicide, and I didn't ever get to grieve that. So I really, because there were too many losses. My dad died, a year and a half after my daughter. So there were just her best friend died, her father died. There were so many things that happened. When my mom died, I don't think I've ever understood the grief associated with that. And so I do want to acknowledge it here on both sides. Because you could before you got traumatized by your husband's death. And so our mums are like, I guess you feel just completely lost without her, yeah?
I have totally felt absolutely lost because, when I say best friend, it's not just the word best friend. It has more to it than just a friend because the relationship is so close and so intense. And she's seen me in my vulnerable, oh my God,
Oh, that's okay.
like
Take a moment.
vulnerable moments,
Yeah.
Yeah. I really needed someone to be there for me, and I couldn't really turn to anyone. No one around me was understanding me. So I expected people around me to understand, oh my God, this happened to me. I didn't do this to myself. This happened to me. Feel sorry for me. Somebody, show some emotion towards me. But nobody does that. Nobody.
Does it like a mom, right?
And it's not even trying to point fingers at anybody to say, oh, you're not caring for me. That's not the space that I'm coming from at all.
No, it's venting. Isn't it venting, Ashmeeta?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
Maltese knows how to take it. Just take it, accept it, and not to judge you or make you feel like you're a bad person for feeling or having the thoughts that you're having at that given moment.
Right. So let's pay respect to moms here just for a moment because your children are a little bit older now, right? They're young adults now, are they?
My youngest is 12,
Oh, okay. And how old are the other two?
21, and 19.
Okay. So even so, all through their life, we will be sounding boards for our children at whatever age. And I find it a blessing. My son at 31, almost 32, he still needs to vent. And you know what? I'm just getting better at learning to go, let him vent. Don't even counsel. You're just here. And that's when that goes, it's one of the reasons I want to stay on the planet as long as I can to be that for him. Okay, I want to stay for my own life too, but you know what I mean? It's like, so really, let's catch a breath here, and I won't stay on that. But people, audience, if you've lost a parent, and you may feel this way about your dad, audience, and may have maybe a stronger connection with your other parent, but it in any way that we lose them. So culturally, I'm going to take a stand, and I think Ashmeeta, you would agree with me. Um, it isn't that they've had a good long life, or in some cases, well, they got sick, so it's better they've gone, they're out of their pain and all that kind of stuff. There's really, to my knowledge, nothing on about how we actually become adult orphans. Right? But it's the truth. And if we've had a parent to steer us, guide us, and that's gone, we're like on our own without that oarswoman. And I think the other thing is it does make us face our own mortality. I really do. So anyway, I just want to say that. Okay, so Ashmeeta, so very, very impacting loss for you. And I also want to give a nod. The other thing when we connected is this idea of being in a country as an expat, and I've lived it. I was in the diplomatic corps for 5 years, and I know that's not very long, but there are people that spend a whole lifetime, and I know exactly what you're talking about when you have nothing culturally familiar, the same network, nothing. And that in itself can present its own grief. Did that impact you? Like, I know it impacted you and how you were going to have to deal with the loss of your mom, the loss of the illness and loss of your husband. But did you ever form a community, or do you still struggle with that?
That is something that I do still struggle with, honestly speaking. I've been living in the US for more than 10 years now, and I still struggle with that. But I have found, and I think anybody who moves from one country to another country and, makes a home for themselves in a new country, over time, they find in themselves ways to include themselves, or to, they find places where they can make friends. And having said that, for me, it appeared in my life in the form of my children's friends' parents. I didn't go out into the community and through maybe a religious organization or any of that kind of stuff. That was not my case. In my case, it was my kids made friends with someone and then started spending time, and then over time the parents, so I have lived in California. I have two really, really, that was my first state that I lived in when I moved to the US.
Okay.
Really good, close friends that I made there.
Good.
Then when I moved to Michigan, because my husband's job moved us around quite a bit, when I moved to Michigan, I had got a good number, at least about 3 or 4 friends that I became close with there. And the nice thing about it is, what I really like about it is that all of them are from different cultures.
Did all of them stick with you and to today through the loss of your husband and your grief?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Good. Then they're true friends. Yes, true.
One of them had actually moved out of Michigan because her husband's job also, he moved jobs. Her husbands are always changing jobs, but we go with them because they have the earning potential and they have the careers, right?
That's right.
That's right. Go with them. And we're just there in the background with the families and making sure all on the home front, everything is fine. And when my husband passed away, they drove or flew, I can't remember, but from Pennsylvania, they drove all the way to come to the funeral. And I was just totally taken by that. Just the various different blessings and graces that have come into my life. I cannot have gratitude for that. They didn't need to come. Nobody owes anybody anything. Nobody owes me anything.
Let's move to that just briefly. We are going to get your husband, but I don't want to, pile it on too quickly. This idea, though, nobody owes me anything. If you can adopt that, tell me how you feel about this, Ashmeeta. If you can adopt that as early on in your grief or any struggle, wow. I mean, because so many people, when we're vulnerable and weak, I was just talking to someone and she said we're like wounded, injured animals in our early grief and waiting for people to save us. But here's the thing, people, they're not going to save us. Nobody wants to save us and nobody can save us. So you knowing that already, when did you really accept in your life that nobody owes me anything?
I think I was slowly accepting it from way before when my mom passed away, but it really hit home and became ingrained in me when my husband because that had such a direct impact in my life when my husband died that I had to reframe my expectations. I had to reframe the way I think. I had to reframe basically my expectations and the way I view myself. Various different situations, and it's not something that you just make up your mind. Okay, this is it, and I'm going to do it.
No.
Every time I found myself in a different situation, for example, if I found myself in a situation with a family member and a married couple, a family member, close family,
Yeah.
and here I am sitting there interacting with them, and suddenly out of the blue, they may do something that shows affection towards each other or whatever it is. And here I am sitting there and I get triggered.
Yes. Yes.
What do I do? I mean, is it right for me to get triggered? Yes, this is an authentic emotion that I'm having, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Feel to that emotion, but I also need to be aware, where am I?
Yeah.
I'm in the presence of other people who, depending on how I react to the feeling that I am having,
Yes.
is going to affect them, and they are going to formulate an opinion about me, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just in this whole different frame of mind and a whole different space. But because of that, I found that I do alienate myself. It's not, grief makes you alone, puts you in a space where you're alone because people don't understand. It's not because they can't help you and they don't understand. So it is a lonely place to be.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I deliberately have kept myself away from people. I only expose myself to situations or social situations as long as I am comfortable with that situation.
Yeah.
As soon as I start feeling uncomfortable,
Yeah.
I study a little bit just to see, okay, what is making me uncomfortable here? What is going on here? I'm analyzing myself while I'm in that situation. And then, okay, this is too much. I can't
Yeah.
take it. This, I'm going to politely remove myself from the situation.
Yeah.
But I still am, when I go back in my own space,
Yeah.
talking to myself, that self-talk. Why did I feel this way? What came up for me? How was I feeling? Nobody really did anything. They were just showing affection to each other.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with me? Why do I need to feel hurt by that? Or why
Yeah.
do I have these emotions come up in me? So, but this is a me thing. This is not a them thing.
Exactly. And I think it's really healthy to do that. And I think that depending on how long you've been in grief, I'm speaking generally audience here, and depending what we do with our grief. Okay, you can be 20, 30, 40 years in grief and be the same person you were on day one. So it's really, I think the inner probing is so wonderful, and it should continue throughout our life, because when we're able, and some people might be able to start that inner probing a little earlier than others, but I would offer for any of us in any really impacting, if not traumatic loss, listen, don't expect to really, have a clear head for a few years. I'd say a few years, and it could even be longer. And so I did just want to quickly ask. Does not mean anything in terms of how long we're in grief. The reason I'm asking is what year did your hubby pass?
2019, 4 years ago.
So the thing about having maybe some other losses or experiences in our life that have conditioned us or disciplined us to learn how to probe inwardly, I would offer it as the biggest, like the one scariest change or assignment for people to do. It's so difficult in normal, best of times, to inwardly probe when life's going great. Why would I do that? When life's too hard, I don't want to look at it. And all I can offer is that I still, and I want to just acknowledge triggers here, Ashmeeta. They never go away. You might even find that with your mom. So you've had your parents lost many years ago now. You might still find triggers, cooking smells, whatever it would be. Seeing a mom with, older mom with an adult daughter. For me, I can't stand nail salons and mom-daughter days. Like and so I wouldn't plan to put myself in any situation that I knew could be triggering. But here's the thing about triggers, audience: you don't know when they're going to hit you, what it's going to be, and they still happen. years and years later. The difference is when you do inward work, inner work, inward probing, and like you're saying, Ashmeeta, what triggered me, and understanding it's never about the other person. Never. It could be the situation, but it's always about us and what we're feeling. And I actually think they are so healthy to have, because it gives us an opportunity to see what emotions, like you're saying, are triggered. Also, where we are. I often use them as a gauge. Well, I didn't react as long or as intensely. So triggers and emotions combined, which they're the same, well, kind of different, but use them, audience, to see as a gauge how far you've come, where you want to go. And do you want to add to that, Ashmeeta?
Yes, I think, it all basically boils down to choices.
Mm.
When you're in any given situation, you have, we have so many choices on how we can react.
Mm-hmm.
Physically, without words, what we can say, physically, how we can react with our expressions, what expression we can, show to the next person.
Mm-hmm.
And with a lot of self-talk and introspection and that kind of stuff, whenever you do find yourself in a situation where you're being triggered, because you've done that work and you know that, okay, this is something that's going to trigger me. And I usually react in this way when I get triggered by type of a situation. So I am going to practice some resistance, maybe, if that is the correct word to use, but I'm going to practice being more responsible about how I am going to react to this, because at the end of the line, it's like a video game. You want to move up the levels. You want to sort of conquer this so it doesn't control you and you are controlling it. That's basically what it's about, is you don't want these things that happen to you in your life. It's like experiences. They come to us. They happen to us. We are not the experience. I experienced a fall has pushed me in a whole different space. I have choices. I can sit and complain and look for attention and say, hey, I can't do this. I cannot do that. But let's think out of the box. Let's find different ways to work with things.
Yeah. Yeah. I love what you're saying. I'm very much, you're basically saying the way I live. I'm very solution oriented, very well, this has happened, now what? But I also just want to just take a pause for a quick second for the audience to understand that there is a period in grief, early grief, which wherever you define it for yourself, what your early grief is. And often I don't even think we will know that until we've had a few years in and can look back and go, oh yeah, that was early. I might go, my early grief was 5 years because I'm in almost 19 with my daughter. I definitely know it wasn't 10. I definitely know I was pivoting and at the 5 year mark. But also you have to define whether or not you even have enough, bandwidth within yourself to kind of look and see how you were progressing. Because one thing in grief, you can really lose sense of self and what you've accomplished. So we're not really talking, unless you want to offer this in your resources section, about journaling and stuff. I think it's very healthy to do something of a record keeping, if you're so inclined, even if it's writing one line, if you're dedicated to making a difference in your own life. Dedicated to making a difference in your own life by saying, I really don't want to be in this situation forever. I want to talk to you about that just really quickly. When you realize, we're going to talk about, thoughts and how they create a reality. But again, when we're staying within this period of grief, and I don't even want to think about my thoughts. I don't even know what I'm thinking. I have no control over that. I'm traumatized. Life's happening to me. It sucks. I'm in pain. I'm suffering. Make it go away. Okay. So that's fine. And that period's going to happen for probably all of us until it doesn't. And that's that piece about, I want something different. And, I think there's a huge gap I mean, I could be wrong, but I think there's a bit of a gap, if not a huge one, at least somewhat of a gap in getting people through that. Getting people through that, because it's not as easy as going, jumping the puddle, grief being the puddle, and one day just jumping over it and putting everything behind you. It is a long, hard journey from whatever type of loss we have experienced to really demonstrate this resilience and change in our life. So, having said that, before a person is at that stage where they can be aware of their thoughts, they do buy into that. Oh, what I'm thinking really actually impacts what I'm experiencing, because it does. What would you say to them? Something they could look for, hang on, the hope that one day you will move through this really tough period. What got you through? Like, let's just start with, once your husband passed, you had been caregiving, and once you went into that traumatic loss, what was the thing you held on to and made you realize you weren't going to stay in that intense period forever?
Oh, yes. So, just a quick little background. So, he was with the pancreatic cancer that took about a year and a half before it finally took him. So, I was totally involved with him there and didn't realize what was happening to me, what I was losing, because I was so involved in what just needed immediate things that needed attending: kids, family, his health, all that kind of stuff. Okay. After he passed, then came the first few months was all of the logistics of, getting things together, taxes, finances, all that kind of stuff, which I never paid attention to. So there was no time to really even sit and think about me and what really just happened to me because of all this busy work that I needed to do. And I had to do it in a certain time frame to, understand. And at the same time, my brain's working against me because it didn't want to think. It doesn't want to absorb any information that people are giving me. People are talking to me and I feel like they're just talking at me and I hear all these words coming to me and I'm not understanding you. Please explain it to me again. And before you know it, I'm crying. I'm like, you know what? I can't do this.
Yeah.
So then I have to go back to the same thing again. But as the months started going by and I noticed that when I find myself alone, which is usually at night before I go to bed. Otherwise, the whole day I'm busy running around, young kids, the kids.
Yeah.
I never really paid attention then, but it would knock me when I had to go to sleep. That is when everything started flooding into my mind. Do you just realize what has happened? You look to the side of you, the person that is sleeping there, the person you expected to be sleeping there is not there.
Yeah.
The reality of it only knocks me every evening when I go to sleep. And I was like, okay, after a while of experiencing that, I had to a little self-talk. I just did a lot of self-talk. And the one main thing that I said to myself was, what do you see right now in front of you is your reality. Embracing this reality is going to help you. Embracing means acknowledging, coming to terms. And as you embrace something, you automatically slowly start coming to terms with it because your mind, you start changing the words that you're saying to yourself. You start maybe behaving in a different way. Instead of behaving like a victim is which I was like, I'm not a victim. It's the one thing that I kept saying to myself. Every time I started feeling sad or feeling low down, I would say to myself, you're not a victim. This is something that's happened to you. What is it that you need to do right now to help yourself? Because I am living in this very present moment. I'm not living in the past. I'm not living in the future. I can have goals and all of that for the future and things like that. That's a whole different thing. But life is happening right now.
Yeah.
And it happens in moments. Seeing my husband take his last breath, I was holding his hand when he took his last breath, gave me the realization that life is so fragile. It is here and it can be gone anytime.
Yeah.
I mean, the illness took him so quickly. We didn't even have time to discuss anything about our future or what is his intentions about how he sees his kids, or I'm leaving, I'm so sorry. None of those kind of things even bothered coming out of any of our mouths because we were so involved in just caring for him and what the cancer was doing to him.
Wow.
He's gone. How do I go on? How am I going to go on with my life, because I did not see my life in any other way aside from him and my children and whatever it is that I needed to do for my family, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I had to rewire those thoughts in my head. I am not a victim. Everything is fine. All is well. Everything is the way it is supposed to be. Whatever's happened is supposed to happen the way it did. It was not in my control. I don't control these things. But what I do have control over is the emotions that I'm feeling right now, the thoughts that go through my mind right now. I have control with how to control those thoughts. So, example, a thought could go into my mind. Oh, you're a widow. Nobody's going to want to have to do anything with you. You taboo. Some cultures have this where, oh, she's a widow, so you need to keep away from her, or that kind of stuff. So those limiting beliefs, those thoughts will enter my mind too, because I've lived in this world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How do I allow that thought to become my reality? Do I really want to let that become my reality? I'm a human being. It is sad that I had to lose my husband to pancreatic cancer. I didn't ask him to die. He didn't ask to die at this age.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't ask to leave me, and I didn't ask for him to leave me. But this is the reality of life. Life and death are part of the circle of
Yep.
life, right?
Yep. Yep.
So when an experience has happened to me, and the people around me or the people I am exposing myself are not going to support me or give me that empathy that I require, then the onus is up to me to not expect it from them. They don't know any better, is what I'm saying to myself. I'm not judging them that, why aren't you there for me?
Mm-hmm.
Because ultimately, fundamentals, at the bottom line, we're all responsible for ourselves.
I agree.
It's a real hard pill to swallow, especially when you're like, oh, you should be helping me. You're not there for me. All of that kind of stuff. Yes, we do need that. But when you're in a situation like this, and this is one of the biggest things that knocked me, was all starts and ends with you, is what the realization I came to for myself.
I love that. It all starts and ends with you.
I had him. When he was there, he played his role. He played his part in the family. He did it well. He's not there now. I'm not replacing him. I tried that. Oh my God, I tried that too. I tried to be dad and mom to my children. And that I failed hopelessly at that. And I realized that, you know what? My kids know me as for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to change that person because my husband's not around anymore. I still need to be who I am to them the way they know me, and support them and guide them and do whatever it is I have to do as a parent. I don't need to change on them because there's just too much change. Losing a parent is a big change.
Yeah. Well, when you say that, do you want to just clarify that you mean you could have succumbed to the experience, and what do you actually mean by what could you have changed into that your kids wouldn't have recognized you?
I could have, example, I actually did this, was my husband parented, I have 3 kids. My middle son was really close to his dad. And as he was growing, we realized that there's a way that we needed to parent him in order to get through to him. And that was a unique style that my husband really did well at.
Mm.
So as his mom, I was more on the emotional side. The rational side, the logical side was my husband. And the two of us together parenting this specific child was what he needed and worked for him.
Right.
My husband died. I thought, oh my God, this guy is really going to go, things are going to get really crazy for him. Having lost a parent myself, I've been there in a sense. I'm like, my kids have now lost a parent.
Yeah.
I became really hyper focused on, I want to make sure that I'm giving him what he needs.
Yeah.
So I tried to step into my husband's shoes and do, because I've seen how he parented. So
Yeah.
I tried to do the same thing, backfired on me totally.
Yeah.
Not something
Yeah.
that this child needed. He needed to acknowledge that loss. Yes, parent, let it be what it is authentically, leave it in its space. There was no need for me to go in there and meddle and try to change things. I am his mom and be who I am to him and who, what I need to be to him. I don't need to be his dad.
That's a pretty profound and I think helpful insight, to the audience. I just think that's really profound that you saw that. I actually had a guest on earlier in the year, and she works in counseling, grief counseling, and she works for a medical doctor as well. And anyway, but she was just saying that they have done studies and on kids in grief, and as long as we don't interfere in their grief, they will grieve the way they need to. And it's often just in short bursts. And they might say something, they might acknowledge something, and depending, on their age, and then run off and play or, go and do their thing. And as long as we just, acknowledge it, is there anything else you want to say about that? And not try and fix it for them. She said they actually grieve healthier than adults. And it's too bad I didn't know that when my daughter died and my son was 13, because we completely didn't have this information. And we did not have this information. This is back in 2005. And anyway, it was a disaster for us because it ended up being sort of the silent thing. And I was too much of a mess to really be able to do anything. But while we're not talking about child loss today, and we are talking about unexpected parent death, you're raising a very, very good point about wanting to try and be everything and fill both shoes. It's not possible. So understanding, getting in your own lane and understanding, no, I'm the mom and this is all I can do. I think that's huge, Ashmeeta. Huge.
It also makes me feel weak. I have to be honest. I feel very weak and vulnerable, but I don't. Feeling weak and vulnerable and having fear, being afraid of things, don't necessarily have to be a bad thing. You can add a positive spin to it. I'm vulnerable in the situation, but what can I do? And this is going to be unique for each person because things in our comfort zone, right? You got to be comfortable with what you're doing, and your thoughts. It's basically that connection between the heart and the mind. That connection needs to take place in order for a person to feel comfortable about anything that they're doing. Mm-hmm. And for me, I don't really. Yes, I don't see fear so much as a bad thing. I see it as an emotion that actually gives me insight into things that can be limiting for me or things that I still need to work on in my life so that I can move forward and I can evolve.
So I do want to just talk quickly, close off with your resources, Ashmeeta. You have a Grief and Grow Challenge on Instagram. You've got a Facebook group. You've got a bunch of social media where people can connect with you. Are there any other resources that you're offering to people?
My contact details are all on my website. So I definitely do offer coaching to anyone who's interested.
So your website is storyyoutellyourself.com. Audience, go visit Ashmeeta's website. We'll have the link in the show notes. And from there, you can connect with her in a number of different ways. Take her challenge, don't take her challenge, but whatever. You've got a lot of beautiful resources and a wonderful website. So I do want to thank you, Ashmeeta, for taking the time to share some of your knowledge and wisdom gained from your experiences. Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much for having me. It's really nice meeting you too.
Wonderful to meet you too, Ashmeeta. Thank you.